Hey guys, welcome back to another part. What the hell was that little bell sound? Whatever. We are at the new camp and still have to check it out a bit, like whether the readables, like the books and the letters and stuff, are all the same as from the previous camp. Several are. I already noticed that, but if there are any new ones, I'd like to just get all the reading over with in one go. Then it's also, yeah, you also don't
So
have to.
Arthur, is it true about the bad luck?
What bad luck?
I just broke my pocket mirror and I remember me old ma saying that a broken mirror means 7 years bad luck.
7 years? We won't see 7 years out. Don't be ridiculous. But if I find a mirror on my adventures, I'll bring it back for you.
Thank you, Arthur.
Alright, but that also avoids having to wonder all the time which booklets we did read and which we haven't yet. So this is now just hunting readables, as I made up a word for them. It's readable. And I also really wonder, this is the ammunition card. How the hell do we donate ammunition to the camp? There's simply no button prompt coming up here. You have unopened mail or parcels. You can pick them up at the post office. Okay, fine. That's probably from the paleontologist lady. God damn it. Sometimes it's a bit annoying, all that NPC chatter, I must say. Also, what is a bit annoying, Jesus Christ, is the fuzzy graphics still, even post-patch. Or there was like a recent update. Really, it's yeah, I haven't booted the game up in a couple of days, but if you look at it, this is not 4K by a long shot. It's even, I think, less sharp than a good 1080p image. It's, yeah, I understand there's a lot going on and the hardware is limited, so yeah, I do understand where they're coming from, but I would have simply lost. Don't feign that it is like a 4K sharp image when it's far, far, far from it. Simply sell it as 1440p or 1080p. I don't think people would have minded that as much as now expecting 4K and getting some kind of smeared out image. But yeah, maybe that's just me. Alright, here we go. Dishonorable Discharge from the Army of the United States. Yeah, already read that. So this is indeed the same booklets as in the previous camp. The case of the deceitful German we also already read. I will make sure, but maybe it's a new episode in the same series, but I cannot imagine. I guess it will simply be the same story. London lay enveloped in a thick blanket of fog. It hung like a blanket that has been hung up from a place you hang things from, and the ancient but bustling city, the most wonderful and awful place in the entire world, was both pretty and sinister, like a young girl who tempts a bachelor into marriage, or a jewel that tempts a man into murder. These were my thoughts as I sat by doing the things of a gentleman does while idly waiting for an adventure to start at the beginning of a story. Yes, we already read this many episodes ago. So that is 1 tent going or down.
Mr. Morgan!
Jesus Christ! Can you please shut the hell up?
Quite a country. Quite a country. You know, sometimes I'm glad I left the Navy. Too many men. Too many men. This world, far more genteel, huh?
I never figured running in a bunch of outlaws would be the genteel option.
Well, I've seen things, sir. I've seen terrible things.
Alright, that doesn't sound too pleasant. Last, yeah, probably not the last, but another gripe I have, which I already commented on before. First bank robbery, newspaper scrap. Is the fact that you cannot run in camp. Well, the camp it's not that big, but it's also not super small. So just shuffling about at this snail space, it just makes everything take so much more time. If Arthur is in a hurry, he should simply be able to run also in camp. But yeah, that's maybe just me. Let's read this one. 3 men sought, brazen bank robbery. Major T.G. Belfort has been a cashier at the banking house of Lee and Hoyt for a number of years, but nothing prepared him for what transpired last week. It was about 2 o'clock. 3 men, strangers to me, came through the door and walked up to the counter. One of them, the eldest of the 3, was a fine talker and engaged me in conversation. Suddenly the largest, a big, sullen young man, brandished a firearm and held it up to my face. Throw up your hands, the third one said, who appeared to be the boss. The other 2 repeated the order with an oath, and the leader said, my fine patriotic friends and I are going to relieve you of that gold and introduce a few folks to the benefits of civilization. They came around the counter and grabbed some sacks which contained 5,000 in gold. They demanded to know where the rest of the money was, and I pointed out 3 sacks containing silver, but it was too bulky for them. They retreated, and one warned against sounding an alarm. I was never so terrified in my life, Mr. Belfort told the reporter. The robbers are reported to have lingered in town, and there are unproven claims that the men traveled to hovels and shanties and even a home for orphans and gave handfuls of the... to the... Now that last one I cannot read. These robbers are reported to have lingered in town, and there are unproven claims that the men traveled to hovels and shanties and even a home for orphans and gave handfuls of the ill-gotten gains to the poor. Alright, good for them. Bit of a Robin Hood thing going on. Yeah, that's such a weird flower we can examine. I don't really understand. Maybe it has some use going forward. Alright. Find it so weird. I find it cool that you can pick up everything, but it's not like you can pick up everything. So that makes it a bit random. Why I can pick up that little flower and not other jars and pots and pans in the game. But whatever. Is this a new one? The American Inferno. Probably it is. Can we sit down while reading? Nope. Alright. The American Inferno, Evelyn Miller. Yes, we already read this. This is about New York. In the end, what has a man but his thoughts? I would postulate. Further, what is a man to stand for but his thought? His actions, perhaps? I know precious little of actions. Lions, donkeys, hyenas, they all act. So, is that what we are? Yep, we already read this one a long while ago. So that is actually a good thing. We already went through it. I mean, there is so much reading in this game, so I don't mind not having that many new booklets. I remember reading the newspaper. This was that poem by Molly, I guess. I mean, I remember reading the newspaper and I thought, it's 5 minutes, 10 minutes reading. It really took like half an hour or something. Yeah, this is from Molly. Ah, here's a new one, I guess.
Sure.
They say that only the fool quotes himself, and I confess that along with ample reserves of stupidity, I have also been cursed with an excess of vanity. So the reader will forgive me if I quote myself. The real America can only be found not in desires but in the purity of its landscape. This remark is commonplace enough, but in my commonplace mind it resonated since I wrote it in a second-rate book a few years ago. What did I mean by it? When I wrote it, I did not mean very much by it. I merely liked the turn of the phrase. But since then this idea has captured my mind. America is a land that is captivated by its own appetites. Of that there can be no doubt. We are taught to cherish only the temporary feelings of satiety that repeated binging upon our appetites can ensure. Yet this is not liberty. We are not free merely to choose a poison. We are free to think, to feel and to be. We are free to live in this landscape, in this Eden, if we choose it so to be and live free from these unceasing desires. The very things that have plagued European men since the Enlightenment. The great sea of desires that leads to all of mankind's assorted folly. Here in this landscape so perfectly cherished by our native cousins, we, they, and all those who value it are free to worship at God's truest altar. Altar. Okay. Trees that make this vast and perfect place, altar trees or something, are free to worship at God's truest altar. Trees that make this vast and perfect place so perfect. Yet we be spoiled with the European delusions, the delusions that we can compete with God, that our built environment can transcend this, that our factories and the squalid conditions that arise in the towns in which they are built will somehow allow us to be happy. We are not fools, for fools cannot see their idiocy. We are somehow worse than fools, for we will ourselves to do things of such profound stupidity, despite knowing that we will hate what we have built. Who likes a factory? Which man's soul was ever lifted up by a tenement building? Who enjoys seeing working men reduced to wretches and their wives and children treated not as cherished members of a family but as an awful burden? We need better, and yet better is all around. Better is America. By attempting to transform it into a poor impersonation of Europe, we are, as Adam, eating once more of the apple, only this time knowing full well of the consequences. To free the American soul, this new world soul, we must free the American spirit from the prison in which we have placed it. We must return to the American landscape. We must seek our solace, our comfort, our very heaven in the perfection and splendor of this place. Alright. A bit, yeah, romantic article about how all the modern progress is actually really bad. What's this? Ledger, okay. No need to read the ledger. There we have John Marston. Can I eat something? No. We will play a short hand of poker, but first let's check out the books. And the poker is not so much for the money or anything. It's mainly because I understood that the NPCs will chatter a bit, and it's cool for the backstory. Alright, anything here? Still. The castle above the Glen. A Highland romance of oldest Scotland. Mrs. Rescott Childers. Hopefully we already read this one. Forever be doomed to a tragic life of almost unimaginable suffering. Lady Davina swooned sadly. She had seen her beloved Angus, the Moffat of Moffat, killed with her own true beautiful green eyes. And yet now she knew instantly. This knave who was being sent off to die in Ireland was none but Angus himself. That man with the sear and the handsome look of truth about him was Angus Scar. Let's see. While Angus, the noble Moffat, was being sent to Ireland in a coracle to die, would she swoon? Would she submit to this awful English? No. I think we already read this one as well. So, but I will continue a little bit to be sure. The Moffat of Moffat with the fiery red hair and the honest look of truth. They had loved each other faithfully since they were children, playing on the windswept majestic glens with the big cows grazing majestically upon them, each clad simply in the tartans of their violent yet noble clans. Oh, how had she been so foolish as to fall for the tricks of the deceitful English scoundrel, Sir Nigel Fortescue. Yet now she was engaged to marry Sir Nigel, while Angus, the noble Moffat of Moffat, was being sent... God damn it. Can it all become more annoying? While Angus, the noble Moffat of Moffat, was being sent to Ireland in a coracle to die. Would she swoon? Would she lie down and die? Would she submit to this awful English oppression? No. By the way, I do think this is a sequel or the next pages of a story we already started. Because we did already read something about this whole love affair and the guy going to the gallows. But I do think this is these are not the same pages. This is a follow-up. And I have no idea how that Sir Nigel Fortescue tricked her into marrying him. I mean, if she doesn't want to get married, why the hell, how can he force her to marry him while she is aware that he is a trickster, and that her true love is going to the gallows? It's just a bit of a weird premise in my book. For she was Lady Davina, the bravest and truest hearted princess in all of bonny Scotland. She, with her noble tartan gown and her beautiful green eyes, she stood up from the rough-hewn granite stone seat in the beautiful lonely castle majestically. Lady Davina had got back her truest gifts, even though she was a princess, her own strength as a Scotch person. Slowly she cleared her beautiful shaped throat while the Scot wind blew her beautiful tartan gown and her even more beautiful flowing red hair wildly. Her beautiful eyes were still green but now glared with passion and rage. Sir Nigel, a word with you before you leave, if you please, she gasped breathlessly but bravely and very liltingly. By the way, I do think it's the same part that we read before. Maybe it's because initially we read the typed version, and if you read it like in the print version, like the book itself, that it somehow it was hard to resemble it or to recognize it, or a bit more hard, or my memory is just crooked. Sir Nigel turned slowly. He stared sneakily at the truest of all Scottish ladies, the lady, the true tartan-clad lady he thought incorrectly he was about to forever trick deceitfully into becoming his wife, and knew instantly by the look of honesty, simplicity and truth in her beautiful green eyes that all of his English lies and deceits had worked as they never could when faced by such a powerful Scotch honesty. Yes, my lady, he lisped pompously. The poor wee fellow we just sent to us at an island was not a murdering Frenchman at all, was he, you scandalous Sassenach? She shouted loudly. She felt the pride of her noble Scotch ancestors raise her up high and proud like a castle on top of a granite outcrop, just as the awful Englishman before her seemed to shrivel up like a cowardly foreigner of uncertain origin and sacrilegious religion in front of her. Madam, you're sorely mistaken, he... Okay, I'm only reading the last paragraph. I'm not gonna repeat it all to see if it is indeed the same section that we already read, because otherwise it's a bit long. We must hurry, for that coracle is carrying Angus to a certain death, said Lady Davina suddenly and somewhat unrelatedly, and then ran breathlessly through the castle and down the highest granite-hewn spiral staircase in all of the bonny Scotland. After having crossed the drawbridge, she leapt earnestly upon her noble charger Moore, who was the color of granite. Moore whinnied fiercely and then raced across the windswept glens furiously. She hoped earnestly that she could save the life of one man that she loved and who loved her too. She would not be too late, she told herself, and more pointlessly. Moore whinnied again, still very fiercely and also somewhat majestically. Alright, that was the last paragraph. If we already read it, I can just as well read it all. Otherwise it's also a feeling of incompleteness. So, sorry for the confusing order of events, but I'm continuing from the top left. Spluttered and lisped nervously. I think you're definitely mistaken, he added foolishly and still awkwardly. No, Sir Nigel, she said liltingly. Her fair Scottish brogue melting all hearts that hurt it almost as much as her true nature and beautiful green eyes. Her fair Scottish brogue melting all hearts. No, Sir Nigel, I shall never marry you, not while my true love Angus the Moffat of Moffat lives. Deny me, sir, that he lives. Look me in my green eyes and tell me the truth. Angus, he said desperately, realizing that his weak English ways had come to nothing when faced with the Caledonian righteousness of Lady Davina. You are damn well right, Angus the Moffat is not dead. I lied because I have a black heart and because I'm English. Clan brethren, arrest this fool. He's displayed all we know to be true of the English. He's a man of nay honors, he said liltingly yet forcefully, like a heavy mist rolling across a heather-clad glen on a tin of ceremonial shortbreads. Yet dastardly Sir Nigel, despite being a liar and an Englishman, had just enough honor left to see his own foul shame for what it was, unbecoming to anyone in the face of such remarkable North British integrity. Before his debasement could lead to his arrest, and with one last longing gaze for all he would never possess, including the beautiful Lady Davina. Jesus Christ, what annoying grammar. Before his debasement could lead to his arrest, and with one last longing gaze for all he would never possess, including the beautiful Lady Davina, taking in her beautiful green eyes and perfect neck, he threw himself from the castle tower to be dashed forlornly on the jagged but noble granite rocks below. Lady Davina sighed happily. What can you expect? He was English, and not one of the good ones that hate themselves for it, she lamented, truthfully but liltingly. It's like my dad always said, when an Englishman realizes he had acted like you expect of one of those milk sops, then throwing himself out of a window onto granite rocks below is the last he can do, said her trusty and loyal and not subservient, for a true Scotch person shall never be subservient, servant Mora filthily. Oh man. Then throwing himself out of a window onto granite rocks below is the least he can do, said her trusty and loyal and not subservient, for a true Scots person shall never be subservient servant Mora fitly. Alright, this is really, it's probably just me, I'm not super sharp today, but I continued to read it because I was still not really sure whether it was the one that we read before, and I also didn't really remember exactly what happened all, so I was also curious, but it's really written in an annoying manner. And
Mr. Morgan.
I also don't find it not that
Yes,
funny
Reverend.
even.
Do you think the Pinkertons are finally gonna kill us?
Perhaps so.
I'm so worried.
Right, and the bad news is, I saw another book lying about, or is that the same one? I sure hope it is. I've had it a bit with these books. No, here's another one, but hopefully we already read it. Let's check it out. The Castle Above the Moor. Yes, I do think we read this one as well. Let's check it out. Forevermore be doomed to a life of unimaginable suffering. Eleanor swooned, yet surely the Duke was dead. She had seen him thrown off the galleon with her own two beautiful grey eyes. Could this dashing and handsome vagabond... Here, this is what I mean. This is exactly the same story. Huh? This is the Castle of the Moor. A romance of old England. What the hell is this then? The Castle Above the Glen. Well, it's simply the same story, I guess. Let's see what the differences are. Yeah. For every more be doomed to a life of unimaginable suffering. At least this is not more pages than this. The other one was 4 pages. This is only 2. Yet surely the Duke was dead. She had seen him thrown off the galleon with her own two beautiful grey eyes. Could this dashing and handsome vagabond with a scar across his cheek really be him? It seemed impossible, yet in her heart she knew it was true. As true as their love that bound them together like swans that had been tied together. And yet now, instead of embracing her true love or walking with him across the windswept moors, she had sent him off to a certain death, all because of the dastardly trick played by his own evil cousin. Yeah, we for sure... I'm just reading the bottom right, just to be sure. It's very sad. He was once a good and brave man, but then greed and lies overtook him. She lamented lamentably. It's like my father always said, when an Englishman realizing he has acted with all the lack of pluck and honesty one expects of a foreigner, and then dishing yourself upon rocks and tempestuous waves is the only course of action, said her trusty and loyal maid servant Bess comfortingly. Yeah, so that is why I was confused. We already read this one and did not yet read that one, but they are actually exactly the same stories. One is probably the British version and the other the
Mr.
translated US
I told
version.
Dutch. I feel I should tell you. I saw some of Combs' boys riding around.
Down here? What they want?
I have no idea.
They see you?
I don't think so.
Okay. Well, thanks for letting me know, Kieran.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, I had to get some sip of tea. I for sure hope we had it with the reading now. This is the butcher cards.
Evening.
Evening. Let's talk to her.
Well, here we are, Tilly.
Moved again.
That's the way it goes.
I find it hard to care about too.
Good evening, ain't it, Arthur?
So, what do you think of this place?
Not bad. Nice to be by the water.
Yeah, it'll do for now. All right, well, I should be getting on.
Speak soon.
Alright, I do think we can stop with the book hunt.
Hello, Charles.
Okay, this is probably for a small side mission. We're not gonna do that now.
Are you okay, Reverend?
I'm sober, if that's what you mean. I've been on quite a tear.
Me and Mary Beth have been so worried about you.
We got a spot for you here, Arthur. You girls,
Yeah, but I'd first like some stew. Where the hell is the stew?
I don't know about that,
Is there any stew
but we
pot
care
here?
about you. You seem very sad.
What the hell is this, by the way? A letter.
My life took a turn for the worse when I took up with morphine and opium.
Your letter to Lenny from father, January 12, 1894. My dear Leonard, it's only 3 days since you and your mother stood on the platform for duty until my train was out of sight, and already I feel compelled to write how handsome you look then. Yeah, we already read that, and I still find it a bit weird that a father comments to his son, writes to his son how handsome he looked. I find that a bit weird. You could tell that to your daughter, but to your son, how handsome as a father? Maybe that's just old-fashioned by me, but... Right. It's always a bit glitchy graphically. Chucking it down in one go.
Evening?
Always good to see you.
Can we play a card game somewhere? Let's see where that is. Yeah, we can play poker.
Hold still! Pearson said he's short a little meat for the pot.
Stop it! This ain't funny!
Oh, I disagree. Now, why are you so afraid of a pair of gelding tongs? I thought you were the horse
You ain't
expert.
writing that!
What do you reckon, Morgan?
I reckon you two are
Shouts.
made for each other.
Anyways, I really do like the game, and I'm for sure gonna finish it. And I actually don't want to start another game until I finish it. But I sometimes do really have longings back now, especially with my new video card, to Skyrim Special Edition, which I also want to play, and which actually in true 4K looks way sharper than this game. And certain vistas are just as near photorealistic. And it's like an 8-year-old game. But yeah, of course, Special Edition is a bit more recent. But yeah, sometimes I'm like, this is a very cool game, but also maybe because of its scope, maybe a bit intimidating, or dare I say sometimes a bit boring, riding off like long distances on horse. But no, I simply need to get into it, and then it will be super cool again. Okay, let's play some poker.
It's funny.
Can I play poker? Why
My
can't...
daddy died in the field in Pennsylvania, fighting this lot. I ever tell you that?
Many times.
I see I'm boring you, Arthur.
Yeah, I don't like Dutch.
Worrying me. We lost men back there.
We have lofty goals, Arthur. We're trying to reform society to a kinder, truer, better way. Now, of course, there's gonna be casualties.
We're thieves. In a world that don't want us no more.
We are dreamers in an ever duller world of facts. Now, I'll give you that. But come on. It looks to be a nice day ahead. Hosea knows a good fishing spot. If we leave now, well, we'll catch the early biters. Come on.
No, I don't really care for Dutch as our gang leader. Anyways, I think it's a good moment, or a good, if I don't make the episodes too long. Hopefully then they will get processed to 4K, which happens only rarely. Well, I do record in 4K, 60 FPS HDR. So I will end it up here and immediately continue in the next episode. I hope you enjoyed. For the meantime, never forget, keep on gaming. See you later.